Christine Jarusik, and I'm a partner at Richards and Jarusik Immigration Law here in Buffalo, New York. Have you been to Canada and stopped from going in there for any reason? For example, an old DUI or criminal conviction on your record? If that's happened to you, there are ways that you can overcome that inadmissibility. The border officer may have told you that you need to make an application in order to come in. There are several ways that you can do that in order to address your inadmissibility. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to take care of that, how to clean up your record to make sure that Canada lets you into the country. So the first way that you can overcome a criminal inadmissibility is through what's called deemed rehabilitation. Deemed rehabilitation is the automatic overcoming of your inadmissibility. So for example, if you only have one old conviction and it's something that would be considered minor in Canada, like an old DUI that happened before 2018, and more than 10 years has passed since the completion of your sentence, then you may be automatically admissible to Canada just because of the passage of time. That's called deemed rehabilitation. If you can't wait that long, or if you have more than one conviction on your record that could be causing you problems, then you're going to have to address it through one of the other two ways, either a temporary resident permit or an application for rehabilitation. A temporary resident permit is like it sounds. It's just a temporary pass to go to Canada for a period of time. This can be issued either by the consulate. Typically the consulate in Los Angeles, the Canadian consulate in Los Angeles, is the one that makes decisions on that. And you can apply there in advance of your travel and provide information about your offense, copies of your background check, and then some information about your trip and why you need to go. And all of that information, they will consider whether or not the offense and the seriousness of your offense outweighs your reason for travel. In order to be approved for a temporary resident permit, typically you have to have what's called a compelling reason for travel, meaning that there's some kind of humanitarian aspect, a family member, maybe an elderly relative in Canada that you need to see, or a friend, or perhaps there is a economic reason. That's another reason you can get approved. If you're a business person and you have a meeting in Canada, or you have some other kind of economic benefit to a Canadian company that you're going to be providing, then you can get approved for a temporary resident permit. If your offense is considered less serious than the reason you want to travel. Those types of approvals are typically required to be applied for at least 6 months in advance. If it's something more urgent processing can be requested, but only in specific circumstances. The other way to apply for a temporary resident permit, and lots of people do this, is to apply right at the border on your day of travel. Why would you do that and not apply in advance? Well, perhaps you don't have time to wait 6 months for a decision from the consulate, or perhaps it really is an urgent need that you need to get there today, and so you need to have your paperwork with you and apply right at the border. We can help with either type of those applications. The border application, they're not typically going to adjudicate that and allow you to have repeat travel to Canada. So for example, if you need to go back and forth to Canada, if you have a family member up there and you think it's going to be more than one trip that you need to go on, then you could apply for a temporary resident permit at the consulate would be the right way to do that. To do it at the border, they're probably not going to be able to adjudicate that. They would probably only admit you for this one visit, for a weekend, a week, whatever it is that you're going up there. Paperwork's generally the same, whether you apply at the consulate or whether you apply at the border. But you need to be prepared for that interaction with the border officers and know what to have with you and know what kind of what to ask for on the day. The other way you can overcome a criminal inadmissibility to Canada is through a permanent means, and it's called an application for rehabilitation to enter Canada. And those types of applications, again, you apply for them in advance of your travel at a consulate in the United States. The Canadian consulate in New York is generally the one that adjudicates those applications. And similar information needs to be provided. Information about the offense, information about why you want to go to Canada, and more specifically on the, as far as the argument to allow you to be allowed back into Canada is evidence of your rehabilitation. That's really key here. showing that you're a changed person from when your offense happened. You're not eligible to apply for permanent rehabilitation until at least 5 years has passed since the completion of your sentence. And that's not from the actual offense date, that's from the completion of the sentence. So if you have a 1-year probation or you were incarcerated for a period of time, you have to count from the discharge of your probation. If it was a DUI, the last thing that happened may have been the reinstatement of your driver's license at the DMV. So count 5 years from that date. That will determine when you're eligible to apply for rehabilitation. Once you apply for rehabilitation, it's currently taking 18 to 24 months for those to be adjudicated, so it's not quick. But once you are approved, that approval is permanent. So if you never reoffend again, that approval will stay with you for the rest of your life, and you'll be allowed to enter Canada without this issue of your past offense making you inadmissible. If you have more questions about admissibility to Canada based on a DUI or a past criminal conviction, feel free to give us a call. We'd be happy to go over your options with you.